Hi there, this is a chapter summary of the article Enhance Plasticity in Spoken Language Acquisition for Child Learners. It's an article, it's actually a case study, it's a test. So this is from the chapter summary I literally wrote up. Because the learning of a foreign language involves the learning of new phonetic categories, the acquisition requires a speaker to change their weighting of phonetic cues. Phonetic cues is like one of the most important concepts of this whole article. For example, a critical phonetic cue for a native speaker may go unstressed unintentionally in a speaker just learning the language. This should be fairly well known, like perhaps the difference between seat and sit. A classic one is the RL sound of rock and lock to a native English speaker. That is a very big critical phonetic cue. Conversely, if a phonetic cue from the language learner's first language always stresses a specific phonetic cue, transferring this pattern can distort the L2 language's meaning as well. If it's not a thing in your first language, you could not notice the phonetic cue as you're learning the second language. So the group of language learners tested in this study are native Greek learners of English. So the L1 in this scenario is Greek. Greek has specific phonemical cues, phonemes, as they relate to L2. In this example, we're doing English. And so they aim to test the benefits of specialized phonemic cue training to assist in their L2 pronunciation. They do this by shifting perception onto the most relevant and critical cues. They use a variant of high variability phonetic training. Acronym is going to be HVPT, and that's going to be, we're going to see that a bunch during this presentation. The HVPT technique utilizes different voices so as to not just train students to one speaker. A critical concept within HVPT is synthesized stimuli. The voice stimuli are changed. Really quickly, the idea around HVPT is that you want to have multiple speakers, multiple dimensions being spoken from. The different acoustics of these different spaces is something that is played with. All right, so I wanted you guys to see this video really quick. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I just think I recommend this video. It's called Transfer in Second Language Acquisition. The channel is the Ling Space. This guy is really cool. I subscribed.
So the biggest difference between learning your first language and any other one is also the most obvious. When you're learning a second or third language, you already have a whole linguistic system inside your head. And as much as we'd like to forget everything we know about our native language when we learn a new one, we just can't. Once your system's been wired with the grammar of your first language, that knowledge is very sticky. It's like caramel, except inside your brain. But people still learn new languages, right? It's not like there's a sign that says, if you're over 2 years old, you can't ride the new language roller coaster.
All right, this guy's
The
great. Watch
difference,
him.
though, is
Fade him
this.
out.
If you already have a grammar in your head and you
Oh.
start learning a new one, your first guess about what...
All right, I really recommend it. I really enjoyed watching this video. So yes, whoa. Okay, this is more, I think I could have put this first, but right now this is a quick website that gives an example of HVPT. Check it out. Oh man, this is such a crazy looking website. We're gonna do vowels. We're gonna do, this gives you some vowels to differentiate between. We can do 3, okay. I might have trouble with that one actually, because I don't even know what that does. Let's do these 2. And we're gonna struggle. We're gonna struggle. Here we go. All right, check it out. Click to proceed.
He.
He. Oh my God. H plus what vowel? Look at this one. Oh
He.
my God, I'm horrible. I don't know the phonetic alphabet. So, okay. Next up, he. Okay. I think we're doing the same one. I guess we'll click it. Ooh, notice the different voice. The different voice in that. He. You know what? It has to be. Come on. All right. I'm gonna fail this, but it's not.
He.
Ooh, different voice, but now there we go. Who? I wish somebody was here to help me because I suck at this. Hell yeah. These are all synthesized sounds. Ooh, this is minimal pairs. We don't need to think about this too much. Let's look at these. We've got bit, beat, knit, neat, knit, neat. We could even compare lip, leap, lip, leap. If we looked here, it's the difference between these two. Those vowel pairs. This is actually specifically what the Greeks are going to do. The Greeks in this study. All right, synthesized speech. This is an application called Audacity. It was actually designed to synthesize speech. This is the first synthesizer of speeches. Synthesizers are synthesizing speech is taking the audio file and manipulating it. These waveforms all sound as waves, and so you can literally go in here and lengthen something or condense it. You can add acoustics to it, adding echo, adding delay, adding different things that we don't need to talk about. Anyway, this is a link here. If you have access to the slideshow, you could click here and watch a fun video about the history of how speech synthesizers work. You could look at this too. This is a machine that synthesizes speech, how the first speech synthesizers produce speech. Now we can just record speech, and this is not even relevant. I'm so sorry, you guys, but it's also kind of fun. All right, the two kinds of cues that are used in this test are spectral cues and durational cues. So a spectral cue, this is a good lecture here on what spectral cues do. Basically, these are cues that tell you where an object is, how it's moving, and where it is in relation to you. If you click this link here, this is a cool lecture where this speaker will go into dimensions of this. As we see here, we have these waves. This is what we're adjusting for HVPT, and as you'll see for eventually the durational things as well. So an important theory in between we have the spectral cues and the durational. This is Bond's desensitization hypothesis. The desensitization hypothesis states that whenever spectral differences are insufficient to differentiate vowel contrasts because previous linguistic experience did not sensitize listeners to these spectral differences, duration differences will be used to differentiate the non-native vowel contrast. So in a situation where you can't hear a difference that is spectral, it could be like related to bass and stuff. It also could be related quite simply to the way a word sounds, I guess. It could mean that as well. The duration, though, is something like seat versus sit. Here we have the word sit and seat, and this is from the article here. We have the word seat with this sound right here, this E. This is the E, and this is the E, but shortened, while this is a sit, and you'll notice the word sit, it is a shorter duration than this. Here they have actually elongated this using a software to elongate. A reason they could do this is because sometimes you might depend upon the duration of a word between the two. The duration, if you equalize these two, no, you don't want to equalize it. You want to actually emphasize the difference of this vowel. You want to emphasize this sound, diminishing the what you're used to, which is it's a longer sound. And it's hard to perceive. So this is ways to actually use digital editing to help listeners perceive. That's the purpose of this whole thing, is to use digital editing to help listeners perceive and to train with these digital edited things. All right, so we don't have to go through this too much, but the student's first language does uniquely affect their acquisition of L2, their second language. For example, in perceiving important phonemic cues. According to the speech learning model, these are a bunch of models peppered throughout this paper. It's proposed that the more dissimilar to the first language, the phoneme categories of the first language, the more dissimilar, so different, the second language sounds are, the more likely it is for new phonological categories to be developed and produced accurately. But if the sounds are too similar, it's too easy for the sticky brain to map language one's phonemic maps, basically, through language 2 sounds that are similar to L1 sounds are mapped through L1 categories. So that, think about that. The test goes as follows. This is a test. Once again, there's a child group of 20 native speakers of Standard Modern Greek, age 7 to 8. And then the adult group is 20 native speakers of Standard Modern Greek, age 20 to 30. They both have background with English, studying it. We're going to see, they want to see if the kids do better than the adults. Yeah, to see if, because I think it's a well-known thing that adults learn to perfect an accent of a second language is more difficult for adults versus children. But to explain why and to look at it and to see it is more difficult. So there's a pre and a post test, and you could read this on your own if you'd like. Something interesting here is that two sets of recordings. One is digitally recorded words with normal vowel durations. This is still using HVPT. And the other one is digitally recorded words where vowel durations were digitally manipulated using a software called Pratt. So I just threw Audacity up because it's free, and I just did so. I could have thrown up Pratt software. The training, we're going to see the training is here, and we have this fun image for kids. They hear the word, and they click the one that it reads. So there's two kinds of tasks. There's a perceptual identification task and the auditory discrimination task. The PI, we'll call it, include hearing both the natural and modified words with two minimal pair options for students to click the correct answers with. And then the auditory discrimination task is, on the other hand, a system where stimuli is presented orally without any written words to test both things. So this is the PI task. We have the written words here, and you differentiate, you click which one's the right one. These are two different words here. If you get it right, happy bunny, sad bunny if you get it wrong. This is instead the auditory discrimination task, which could be used in your own classes. You present stimuli A, stimuli B, stimuli X. X, you have to look, is it either A or B? For example, you could have the word bit, beat, bit. Bit was stimuli A, so you'd write the correct response A. Here in a forum, you could see some people describing how to create these. I thought this was kind of cool. There's whole forums where people ask for help on how to design these software. It was kind of a dive into a world that I did not know much about. Here we have the actual results. Greek adults had higher scores for the natural vowel duration words, suggesting that they tended to rely more on vowel duration compared to Greek children of English groups. This article is actually really interesting. It's just so dense. This is an interesting thing. Adults are depending more on the durational differences between the words sit and seat. There is a durational difference between those two, while the kids seem more able to differentiate between the sounds themselves, these spectral sounds. The training improved discriminating the performance for both stimulus types, natural and modified, but those trained using the modified stimuli showed a greater improvement compared to those trained using the natural. So this statement right here gives some clout to the modified stimuli, the synthesized speech, both spectral and durational, offered some benefits. Conclusions: the general assumption, as revealed in this study, suggests that language 2 learners often weight cues differently compared to L1 speakers. I think we all knew this. This perceptual cue weighting can be modified through high variability perceptual training, so HVPT. Adults in child groups appear to have access to perceptual cue weighting modifications, although phonetic representations for child groups seem to be more malleable. This apparently greater plasticity in the child group might be exploited in other areas for clinical purposes. I don't know what they're talking about with that clinical purposes part, but just as teachers, the greater plasticity in a child using these different tools, digital tools to modify speech stimulus, either having it be HVPT using spectral differences or in using durational differences to minimize the unimportant phonemic cues and emphasize the important phonemic cues. So I will leave you here and thank you for watching, and I will leave some discussion questions. Thank you very much.